Alright, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is the legendary Founding Titan, and today we're going to be going over the Halo Wars Vanilla tier list. This is without any mods, just a vanilla base game. Um, I just want to get this video out of the way because it's really not going to take that long. Because as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, I smashed these guys all together because, of course, as you probably know, they're not actually in the vanilla. So yeah, so these guys are not even in the game. It's just these six, and I have a pretty good idea of where I already want to place everyone. So I just want to get this video out of the way, pretty much, because it's. I did want to do the vanilla tier list, and I am, of course, doing that, but it's a lot. It's pretty simplistic. I guess is the best way I can really describe this tier list. Um, because there's just only six of them, and let's just get right into it. And it's like I don't think it's gonna be that long of a video to be honest, because like I said, I have a really good idea where everyone goes here. Um, but to start off, I just want to say that in the vanilla, UNSC are going to be ahead. I'm just gonna say that right now. They're gonna be way ahead of the Covenant. It's because UNSC is extremely strong in comparison to the Covenant. Whether you look at it early game, mid game, well, maybe not early game, but mid game and late game, UNSC is really online. Early game really goes the Covenant as they do have the leaders. Um, but the mid game and late game, if the Covenant can't shut them down by some means, they are basically screwed. Um, this is how it is. It I like the vanilla game, but I will not lie, it is very unbalanced. So let's get right into it. At the very bottom of the list, I would have to probably say Prophet. Prophet of Regret is very pathetic in multiplayer. Uh, if the enemy has a Covenant leader, you might as well be out of the game because they can lock your leader down with a single vampire. And on top of that, even if you try to beam the vampire, they could, if the UNSC guy throws a Deceptor Bomb down, because the Prophet is a very big threat, and by any means, they will take him out as soon as possible. So, if a Disruptor Bomb and a Vampire are at the same vicinity, Prophet Regret literally cannot do a single thing to save himself. He is locked down. Not only is he locked down, he can't use any abilities, he can't move, he can't do nothing. The only thing he can do is send his own forces, and as Prophet, you kind of want to build more towards the infantry slash air, which I guess air would be able to get there quickly. But it's just there is that possibility that's always going to happen. If you don't have any air units available, if you don't have any, you know, fast moving troops, your Prophet is dead. Because Prophet normally what you want to do, you want to try to go around the AONSC bases, take out their reactors so they can't do anything. But the problem is Prophet just sucks because of the fact that he can be so easily countered. Um, by a single vampire, and a group of hawks or hornets can quickly take him out as well. Wolverines can really crap on him. Warthogs, for crying out loud, can move faster than him, blast him to pieces. Uh, and a lot of the fast moving, well, yeah, a lot of the powerful UNSC vehicles are, yeah, they're fast. They're fast as hell. It's hard for his beam to actually hit them. It's even if you don't have a vampire, like you can easily run around the Prophet as the anti-air vehicle, which is the Wolverine, is just as fast. Well, not it's not as fast. It's a little bit. It's a quite a bit slower, but it is still very fast. Comparison to a Warthog, the Wolverine is extremely fast for how big it is, and it can easily catch up to the Prophet. And as long as you have map awareness of where the Prophet's rough location is, you're more than likely going to be prepared for it. There is that one instance that maybe he'll get lucky, sneak past you, and get one of your reactors. But reactors are also extremely tanky, so they take a long time to even take down. Um, and there is the possibility that you might be facing a 3-star Prophet, which is pretty, like, his main attacks would be pretty strong then. But even so, you could put a disruptor bomb on your base. He can't do anything. The flight of Prophet makes him much worse. You almost don't want to go for it because of the fact that he can be targeted by vampires, Wolverines. Because here's the thing too, anti-air is some of the strong, like anything that says anti-air, it means anti-air. It's like all the things that do anti-air damage, they are excessively OP to air. Um, I mean, a couple of vampires could quickly take out a vulture, even though a vulture is a Uber unit, which is supposed to be a semi counter to the Scarab. Um, I mean, obviously not on its own, but it's supposed to be like that thing that can do a lot of damage to a Scarab or a base or what have you. And it costs a lot for a Vulture. It costs 900, and a single vampire can take it down pretty quick. So honestly, because of how strong anti-air is, making his one upgrade completely useless, and even on the ground, Spartans are so OP. Even if they get like 8 stars on a Spartan, you're basically fucked. Um, they are so strong, in fact, that they can one tap pretty much most things in the game. Whether it be a Wraith, whether it be a Cobra, you name it. Most ground vehicles are pretty much screwed as the moment a Spartan gets up there in levels in a tank. Um, they're excessively powerful. And because of all these things, Prophet, I honestly believe you can make him good. As long as the opponent isn't always locked eyes on you. But the moment that the opponent is looking out for you, uh, and once they realize what you're trying to do, because Prophet is kind of predictable. He's always going to try to target uh, he's always going to target expensive buildings like reactors or temples, something like that. He's always going to be targeting one of those two. Uh, Mainly reactors because temples will normally be shielded. Well, any Covenant base would be shielded. So it'll always be reactors. So he's pretty predictable as well. Um, yeah, honestly, because of the predictability and because of the fact that his chair, when he goes into flight mode, is so garbage, and the Spartans can easily kill him on ground as well. Prophet doesn't really have much to call his own that's really special. And with anti-infantry also being very strong, his elite honor guards, his special units, are completely useless. The only thing they can really do is sneak by a base, but the troops can't see it, but the user can pretty easily. Well, I shouldn't say pretty easily. If you're not paying attention for it, it'll be pretty difficult to see, I guess. But even so, the honor guards don't do much on their own. They are not able to kill many infantry soldiers, at least not effectively, especially since melee in this game is really bad apart from Chieftain, because as soon as a troop moves just the slightest amount of movement, the melee units have to reposition themselves in order to actually hit them. So even though the honor guards are supposed to be like a way to kill Marines and stuff, Jackals are just way better. They're even more tanky in the sense that if they're in a tower, they're more tanky and useful than an honor guard. So honestly, he goes an F for me. I think he's predictable. I think he's weak. I think there's just not much to call Prophet. He's just pathetic, really, at all means. Uh, and it's also kind of comes down to the fact that, like I said earlier, Unicy is just much more powerful. This is how it is. Uh, at least with, you know, their vehicles are excessively strong. And the reason why UNSC is so good in comparison is because not only because of vehicles, but because a lot of the vehicles that they have, well, every vehicle they have is a counter. Whereas Covenant have to build, you know, a hall for hunters to get anti-vehicle. They gotta build a factory for. Well, they don't have to build a factory, but if you want to destroy buildings effectively, at least you have to build locusts. If you have to kill some marines, raids are pretty good. Uh, but I mean, regardless, though, the Covenant have to build 2 to 3 different. Like they have to basically build 2 to 3 different buildings, upgrade them all, like for units, and because all their counter units are in different buildings. Meanwhile, the UNSC, all their counter units are in the factory. Their Wolverine is anti-air. Their Cobra is anti-vehicle. Their Scorpion is it isn't doesn't say anti-infantry, but it's very good against infantry. As it's tanky, it's fast, it does a lot of damage. And Warthogs are also very good. So really, the fact that the UNSC can counter everything just with factories makes them that much better. Um, and that's why, yeah, profit just like Covenant Leader is gonna be lower, but profit especially has to go to F. Next we have Chieftain. Chieftain has to go. I want to say I'll put him in C tier, I guess. Reason being, Chieftain isn't that great, either really. In some aspects, he's actually worse than Prophet. In some, uh, mainly his leader. His leader summons a vortex, but the problem is if he's not 3-starred, he's gonna die to a Spartan relatively quickly. 3 Spartans in a tank can pretty much one tap him. Uh, he can stun them, however, but he can only stun one at a time. Unless you just keep switching targets back and forth, but the problem is you can't even do that because by the time you try to do that, the scorpions will more than likely move out of the way, uh, and they can also just Pelican transport them away like 5 feet, and that gives them enough time to get out of your stun as well. Uh, Chieftain isn't really that great on his own as a leader. He's very easily killed. Unless he's like I said, he has to be stacked, leveled up in order for him to be a formidable opponent. But even then, he's still predictable in the sense that he's gonna try to use his vortex, get melted, and then that's it. Uh, his brutes are really good though. His brutes is what holds him up way above profit. They are able to stun vehicles. They can kill air very effectively, and they are able to jump away from danger like scorpions and stuff. That's always useful. Not that they really need to run away from scorpions per se, but if there's like an overwhelming amount of them, then yeah. The main thing is really flamethrowers and air. Like I said, they are good against air, but they can be shredded by like hawks, for instance. Hawks get them pretty good, and if you combine the UNSC leaders with air, it is also pretty effective as well. So you just gotta be wary of that when you're using your brutes. But other than that, though, I think Brute Chieftain does go just in C tier. I don't think he goes any higher. The slot above him is gonna be Arbiter. I think Arbiter is probably the best Covenant leader as he does have more. He has a lot more maneuverability. Uh, it's hard as hell to hit him in a. Actually, he goes an A. He's excessively hard to hit in a fight. He can basically stall the enemy for like probably a couple minutes, without being upgraded. Well, with upgrades but without levels. Um, he's excessively hard to kill. If you're controlling him and you don't have a disruptor bomb, he is just hellacious to fight. He heals off of every kill. He's not as tanky as Chieftain, but he has reflective damage. So any damage they do to him that he does a little bit back to them, uh, he's and the thing is, your troops will target him, and you can tell them not to. But the problem is, Arbiter does so much damage that if you just ignore him, he's going to shred your army apart very quickly, especially if it's air or infantry. The only hope you have is vehicles, because that's the one thing he's really not great against, at least damage-wise, but he can still stall vehicles for a long time and can still get a numerous amount of kills on them. Arbiter is one of the best. He's definitely the best Covenant leader by far. He also has Suicide Grunts, which blow up, do a lot of damage to bases, do a lot of damage to tanks. Really, really good leader. Next is going to be Sergeant Forge. I think Sergeant Forge, just because he's UNSC, he's better than Arbiter. Mainly because Warthogs are, well, against Arbiter, though, probably not, actually. I think that makes more sense. I was going to say because Warthogs can rush. You can rush Warthogs, and with Forge having double supply pads, it's very effective to do that strategy. But against Arbiter, not so much. Arbiter is very good against like light armored vehicles and just anything that's not a tank. So that wouldn't really work to Forge's favor. Although, no matter what, if Sergeant Forge gets to late game, Arbiter is ultimately screwed. Any Covenant leader is. But I definitely think the attributes that Arbiter does get do outweigh what Forge gets. Just because of his leader being able to buff his troops as well. And Suicide Grunts being a very good pick against Grizzlies. You can obviously have a lot more Suicide Grunts than you can have of Grizzlies. And Suicide Grunts can teleport right on Arbiter. And if you buff them as well, they'll do even more damage when they blow up. If you just tell them, because what I usually do, I usually tell them to hit, like, I tell my grunts to hit multiple targets before I go in rage, then go in rage, and then have their explosive damage just do so much. I think one or two grunts is all you need to kill a grizzly. I think it's one or two. With a Spartan in it, it's a little bit different. Spartans make everything just OP as shit. Uh, Especially the Grizzly. It's not better. Grizzlies are not better in this version than Scorpions. If you don't know that, that's a fun fact you need to know. That Grizzlies are actually worse than Scorpions. Um, it's because they do less damage. Their shrapnel sucks. So normally you don't ever go for Grizzlies. But if the opponent does go for Grizzlies, just Grizzlies are harder to deal with if you're building infantry. I think what Grizzlies were supposed to do, they were supposed to be like a way to counter hunters easier, but it doesn't really do that because the damage is so pathetic, and hunters have deflection off their shield, so it makes that counter kind of useless. I think Grizzlies were designed. Scorpions were designed to kill tanks, and I think Grizzlies were designed. They are designed to kill infantry, but because of the Hunter's one upgrade, it makes that ability to take out their counter play unit useless. So that's why ultimately, if the Grizzlies shrapnel actually did take out a Hunter, Grizzlies would be better than Scorpions, as it would be able to take out the counter unit that kills a Grizzly. But here it just can't. However, I mean, if you just do the stupid back and forth strategy, you can stay out of the way of hunters anyway. But Scorpions can do that too, so there's no point of getting Grizzlies. Um, yeah. And if you don't know what the back and forth strategy is, it's literally just what it sounds like. You literally go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, out and inside the range of the hunter. You just keep going out of its range of attack because it has shorter range than a scorpion or a grizzly. It has shorter range than them, and you can very easily manipulate that system as it's supposed to be the counter unit. To kill your tanks, you could just keep doing that over and over. And the only way you can really The only way that hunters can really force a fight is if they either have hunters on both sides of the tanks, or they attack a base and then they'll have to aggro the tanks out. But even then, they'll still have to. The tanks will still do that dumbass strategy. It's very annoying to deal with that strategy, and that's ultimately why UNSC does go higher than the Covenant normally. I only put Forge below Arbiter because of the fact that his Grizzly upgrade does suck. His his one upgrade, his the Carpet Bomb. I couldn't think of the name of it. His Carpet Bomb is pathetic. Even calling an ability is pathetic. And yeah, Forge is not as good as Arbiter, but any unit like if Forge gets Spartans up, then he's better than Arbiter, but only in that sense. But because Arbiter can outplay him with grunts, it's all about outplaying. With Arbiter versus Forge, it's all about outplaying him, and you can easily do so if you're skilled enough. So that's why I put Arbiter above Forge, because if you just place Suicide Grunts, mix it with Hunters, you know, mix it with some uh, Banshees, you can very easily take out his tanks, and that's what Ford is wanting to go for. So if you just keep doing that over and over again, and since Banshees, Suicide Grunts, and Hunters are a lot cheaper than Grizzlies, you'll just out economy him, and Ford will just be left rendered useless after a while. And that's why Arbiter is better if you just play him right. Um, so on to these two. Anders goes in S tier. Anders has the cryo bomb, has gremlins. She locks everything down. She makes your tanks useless. She makes Unit C tanks useless with gremlins. She makes air useless with her cryo bomb, and hell, even infantry or uber units makes them useless. Uh, Obviously, she can't spam it, so it's not like a thing where your force is going to be obliterated every single time. But just beware if you send a huge force all at once. She's more likely gonna drop it. You're gonna lose your army, and then you're gonna have to rebuild everything by the time she hits your base with her fast moving hawks. And more than likely, you lost. So Anders, you really have to be very vigilant, very careful, like always aware of where and when she uses her abilities. And if you can, make a timer for yourself, honestly, because you need to be aware of that fucking cryo bomb. If you're not aware of it, it is the most OP thing in the game, in the sense that it just freezes everything of your army. And if you have let's just say you have a vulture force, oh, you just lost all your vultures. At least two of them are going to die. Um, if you're trying to sneak around and hit their base with vultures, yeah, you just lost them. And not that anyone really does that, I don't think, against Anders anyway, because of the fact that she does have air superiority with Hawks, but you never know. Uh, Hawks are excessively OP. They just outclass everything in damage. They are glass cannons, basically. They are very squishy, but they do a shit ton of damage to the point that even vampires struggle to take them down. Um, so yeah, Anders is ultimately the second best leader on this list. And because of that, Cutter, my boy Cutter goes into SS plus territory. Easily the best leader in the game. His ODSTs are unstoppable. You cannot do shit to them. Once they drop in, once they start popping in, you have to really outplay Cutter, and it's almost impossible to do so against a skilled one. A skilled Cutter, you're fucked. There is nothing you can do. Um, they just spam ODSTs. They get 3 tanks up, put Spartans in them as always, and without you looking, they'll bring in their tanks behind your line, blow everything up, and he can always drop in like 10 ODSTs all at once, which ODSTs are the tankiest infantry unit in the game. They do a lot of damage. I don't know if they're tankier than hunters, but they might be. I don't know. They seem tankier. And the fact that they could go into a tower, yeah, they're pretty fucking good. Um, ODSTs are also a lot cheaper than hunters, so if you want to argue that hunters are tankier, just know that you're also fighting something that costs only 100 versus 250, and they can come from the fucking sky. They can come from the sky, and it just outclasses hunters completely because of that. Hunters can't stand a chance to ODSTs because they cost less. They take less time to build. That's another big plus. They're faster, and yeah, they basically have every advantage over a hunter in the sense of like tanky infantry or whatever. He can also reinforce positions with elephants. Elephants are a mini tank, mini mobile base. You can just place them outside of an enemy fortress or whatever, and just spam ODSTs in there and just keep spamming, keep spamming, keep spamming, keep spamming, keep spamming. The moment that Cutter gets 3 bases online and upgrades his Mac Blast, gets ODSTs, you're basically fighting God. You are fighting a force that cannot be like below 40 pop. It is impossible for Cutter to be below 40 pop, as he basically has more barracks thanks to elephants. He has a barracks probably at his base, like probably 2 to 3 barracks just spamming ODSTs there as well. Teleporting, like bringing pelicans in from there, dropping ODSTs, and the fact that the ODST timer for when you drop an ODST is so fucking short, even if they kill everything in that vicinity, the map goes dark, but for a microsecond, you can still pop something in there while everything's dead. And that microsecond is enough time to bring in another ODST soldier for Cutter. And since ODSTs are so tanky, they buy so much time. Even if an entire army's hitting it, it buys just enough time to bring in another one and buy enough time to just you know, keep wasting other people's time. And then eventually those fucking give up because they'll have to, as you're just building economy while they're just having to fight your dumbass ODSTs, and then they'll ignore your ODSTs for like a solid 2 seconds, and then you just drop in more ODSTs from a Pelican, and then drop a Mac Blast. With 4 Mac Blasts, you can take out 4 tanks, you can take out a whole army of infantry, you can take out a Scarab almost. With the Spartans on top of that, you basically just kill everything with Spartans and Scorpions. Yeah, you can't do anything to this motherfucker. He is untouchable. You cannot do anything to it. And Anders is the one person that can fight him, but at that point, it's literally just kaiju versus kaiju battle. At that point, you're literally just watching 2 juggernaut characters just going at it, and it's because Anders has Hawks, which are really good against infantry as well, but ODSTs are really good against air. Infantry, with the rock paper scissors cycle, infantry can take out air, which means ODSTs are very good against her Hawks. And since there's more numbers, there's more ODSTs than there's Hawks. It's just a back and forth battle between a million ODSTs and a million Hawks. It's a back and forth war. And ultimately, Captain Cutter will probably win because he's Captain Cutter. He has ODSTs that can drop anywhere on the map. You cannot surprise him with fucking anything. Cutter is, without a single question or doubt, the number one, just by far best. Other than Anders, like Captain Cutter and Anders are like on a colossal scale versus everyone below S, which is everyone else. Everyone else doesn't stand a single hope in hell against these two, unless they're just not good at those characters or whatever. If you see people playing these 2 characters and they're actually good with them, you can't beat them with any of these people. Maybe Arbiter versus Anders at some situations, but that's other than that though, no, like you can't. These two are so powerful. They have every possible advantage. There's just nothing that surprises them. There's nothing that can really fully counter them. Like even if a full vampire force goes up against a hawk force, it's more than likely that the hawks will just win because they're, well, for one, they're cheaper. Two, they have a cryo bomb that can use at any time that, surprise your vampires with, and they have Spartans, and Spartans and hawks are also excessively strong. So there's nothing you can really do against these two. These two are just behemoths, absolutely fucking behemoths that just cannot go down. You cannot take these two down. They are the juggernauts of the vanilla gameplay. They and that's the most of the time you see those two being played. Occasionally you'll see Forge, you'll see Chieftain, but like yeah, like these two are just behemoths. Like there's nothing you can really do to them. If you're fighting three cutters, resign the map immediately. I am telling you that now because you are not going to have a fun time. I love Cutter, but he is fucking annoying to deal with in vanilla gameplay. He is unfair. He is absolutely unfair to fight. You can't really do much against him. Uh, he'll always have ODST at your base. This is how it is. You'll always have ODSTs there. And the fact that it only takes one population per ODST, he also has the most numbers on the map. He has the most troops. He, despite the Covenant having, you know, 50 pop, they technically have less than that compared to Cutter because of the ODSTs. And well, you could say, well, you could build 50 grunts. Grunts can't do shit to ODSTs. They can't. They like even though they have a 10-man difference, they won't be able to do shit to them. ODSTs are way better. And they have a lot more health. They have a lot more health to the point that even a Scarab takes a minute to kill them under a tower. If it's a 3-star ODST in a tower, a Scarab will take like 30 seconds to kill it. It is insane. Um, ODSTs are excessively OP. Mixing that with a character that can literally drop in ODSTs from anywhere on the map, have a Mac Blast that wipes out fucking anything just about. It's absurd. Like this character is busted as fuck. Um, there's so little you could do, especially if there's three cutters dropping three ODSTs at a time on your base. There is nothing you can do. You're just fucked. You lost that base just for existing. Your base got wiped out because it existed. Not because you got outplayed, but because it existed and they got someone behind your lines. And that base is fucked. Three cutters is absurd to fight. You couldn't fight it. 12 Mac Blast? Yeah, have fun. Have fun getting nuked. Like, you can have a 3 shielded Covenant base, that motherfucker's dead. There's no amount of protection that can save you from three cutters. Or three Anders. Three Anders with, like, 60 Hawks roaming the sky? Yeah, you're fucked. Have fun. Or Cutter with 120 ODSTs roaming the map. Have fun. You're fucked. Captain Cutter is the best. And that's as simple as I can make it. There's literally nothing that surprises him. Same as Anders. But Anders is not as high as Cutter because she can't drop in Hawks out of the fucking sky like he can with ODSTs. If she could, then she would be at the same spot with him. But because of that annoying factor that Cutter has, not only does fighting Cutter break your mentality, it breaks you mentally. It makes you want to do self harm to you physically. So I hate fighting Cutter. I hate fighting Cutter as my favorite person as Chieftain. And, I usually do put some bias. Well, not, I don't usually put bias, but if I wanted to put bias into this, Chieftain can't go any higher than that. Like, look at this. He's my boy is 5th place. Even with bias, like me being biased, I can't place him any higher than that without lying, excessively lying. I can't place him any higher. Because UNSC just butcher him. Arbiter just butchers him. If Chieftain is vortexing Arbiter and Arbiter's hitting him, uh, Arbiter will win easily. Easily. Chieftain can't do anything to Arbiter. So Chieftain's literally stuck here. He can't go any higher than this shit. Fucking Cutter is just like I said, these two are just the juggernauts of the game. You can't do much to them. There's not much you can do to them with any of the other characters. But that's good to do it for this tier list. It was actually a lot longer than I expected, but I had to say a lot of stuff to make it all make sense. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this tier list, be sure to make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As always, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.